Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's Charlie. So after a very long break from both channels, I am back to tell you about these books. I have read most of them now, though there are a couple that I DNF'd. I didn't finish, but I've also got some notes here that I will reach for to make sure I tell you about everything that I want to say about each of these books. So I'm just going to move these out of the way so that we can look at each and every one of them individually. So here are the 3 Deborah Levy books. And I had never read any Deborah Levy before. The first book I was not a fan of. At the risk of being a little bit rude about an excellent author, I could have completely skipped over this one. It didn't grip me at all. I didn't really feel that it was important, personally. The second book, I persevered with it and really started to find that I was enjoying a little bit more. And by the third, I loved it so much, and I identified with all that she was writing about in so many ways. It was difficult to put down. So I would recommend picking up these books and reading them. I think she's an excellent writer. She attaches a lot of references to her writing. Some of it I knew and loved discovering. For example, there's a reference to Mad Men. If you ask me, that's the best show of all time. I was very excited to discover that she was a fan as well. I will definitely pick up more of her books in future, so this is a definite recommend, even though I admit that I didn't really enjoy the first one. So that's Deborah Levy. The next one is the Val McDermid as this metal thing is scratching against the surface. I don't think that I quite picked up that the only part of this book that Val McDermid took part in was the foreword. So she introduced the book, and it is literally, as the title says, Life's Too Short, and there are a bunch of short stories, true short stories about people at work, life at work. It is a quick read, and the writing, as you can see, is pretty large. So they're different unknown authors, and they describe something that was either amusing to them or heart-wrenching, and it always takes place at work. I didn't enjoy this book. I'm not gonna lie. This was one of my DNFs. I mean, I skimmed through it. I can't say that I would recommend it. The writing I found a little bit sort of ineffective to keep me interested. I just didn't particularly find the stories that engaging. I can see that the author was, whatever was happening had an impact on them, but I didn't find it captivating enough. And so this book is going to be taken to my favourite charity shop. There's got to be other people out there who will appreciate it more than I did. The next one, Ruby Wax, who I love. I had high hopes for this book. I picked up this book because ever since 2020, I found my anxiety has gone up. I'm a lot more anxious in my everyday, and I don't love that. I'm not enjoying feeling more anxious. And so I thought this sounded like just the book. Much needed tonic for our frazzled world. Frazzled. I feel frazzled a lot of the time. And I love Ruby Wax, so it is a lot more dense than I would have guessed. She really goes into detail. This is not a light read, but Ruby is quite a funny character, and she's presenting the cover in a pretty relaxed way, I would say. So I was expecting it to be a quicker read, and it is not something that you really have to commit to and focus when you're reading it. So I've read a little bit of it, but thinking I need to hold on to it and come back and read a little bit more. So I'm keeping this one. It's going on my bookshelf, but I have not finished it yet. The next book is fantastic. The Moth. 50 Extraordinary True Stories. So what happens with the Moth, or at least with these stories, is real people take their stories, and the ones that the Moth like best, they improve it and then they print it. So the writing is excellent. It's really, really good, and the stories are stories that really capture your attention. And what I loved about it is that you can dip into the book and read one story, and then you can put it down and come back to it another day and read a different story, and you don't have to commit to the whole book. So it's a definite keeper, and I will be looking for more of the Moth in future. So that is staying on my bookshelf. The next book is by Kate Fox, and it's about watching the English and the hidden rules of English behaviour. So, as the title suggests, Kate, she inserts herself in certain situations to find out what English, or I want to say British, but she says English, so what English people do, their behaviours, what they say, what they don't say. And again, the same thing as the Ruby Wax book. I had an idea that this book was going to be a lot more light to read. And he even says here, an entertaining, clever book. It is a very clever book, and she is funny. But it's more serious than they make out. You really have to be focused on what she's writing about. And so let's have a look here at the contents. Conversation codes, behaviour codes. So talking about the weather, humour, class codes, talk rules, the mobile phone, pub talk, rules in the home, on the road, at work, at play, dress codes, food, sex, and rites of passage. So she covers all of these areas, but it is pretty, it's a lot, and you have to really, again, commit to the book. And I didn't really have the headspace in the summer, and so I love it. I think it's really interesting, especially as I'm English. So I have to keep stopping because of the planes and the trucks and the traffic and the hooting. Usual story. I think of all the books, this must be so far my absolute favourite. I don't think there's been a single Gretchen Rubin book that I've ever picked up that I've found easy to put down. Her writing is so good. She is so easy to read, and she's so accurate in what she says. So the Four Tendencies, it's basically there are 4 types of characters, and each of us fall into one of the 4, and it's just about the ways that we are as individuals and how best to live that sort of type. I love it. I love this book, and she just hits the nail on the head. I love it, and I'm keeping it as I've kept the other books of hers that I've got. So, definite recommend if you're interested in psychology and personality sort of things. This is really, really good. So really the only one I'm going to find a new home for is this book. Everything else is going to stay on my shelf. I wanted to show you 2 books that I've picked up since making the first video. I forgot to mention the Stephen King book. So I don't have it with me. I left it at home in Portugal. But I will put a picture up on the screen to show it. Let me put this over here to give it some space. So I loved this book. It's another one I could not put down. Let's see, it was a while ago that I read it. It's a lot about his life growing up. A lot about how he became a successful author, and it's also about his advice to those who are seeking to do the same. It's a fantastic book. So if you're interested in writing, this is a definite recommend. And then the last book, I think I already said this, but I'm going to just repeat it. Lisa Gardner, Before She Disappeared. It's one of the whole series of her books. It's really great, light sort of holiday read, and I could easily read more of her books. It's a series. It's all about the central female character. And she goes from state to state in the US. And she solves missing people cold cases. Right up my alley. I think I mentioned in the previous video that she gives me Janet Ivanovich vibes. It is pretty much the same style of writing. So, not non-fiction. This is definitely fiction, but I loved it, and yeah, recommend Lisa Gardner. And if you've never heard of Janet Ivanovich, look her up as well. Okay, so now we go to the 2 newer books. I was was looking for something to read to give me a new perspective. I came across Eckhart Tolle's New Earth that comes highly recommended on Goodreads. Well, actually, maybe that's not accurate, but I felt compelled to find this book and pick it up. It says here, Oprah Winfrey says, essential spiritual teaching, one of the most valuable books I've ever read. He also wrote The Power of Now, to create a better life. And so I have started reading it, and I am excited to get into it. And this does not look like a book that you can read lightly. I think you really need to settle down to it. So I've read up to 64 pages, but it was at the beginning of summer and I have not picked it up, so I'm going to probably have to go back and start again to refresh my mind. So have any of you read this book, and what is your opinion of it? And if you have any other type of recommendations in this sort of line, please leave me a comment below the video. I'm interested in hearing what books you recommend. So yes, I think this is going to be a good read. The last one that I picked up, honestly, I don't really know anything about it. I just came across it on Goodreads, and I love sociology. I love reading about sort of anthropological studies of people. I find people and the way that everyone lives their lives and the choices they make, I find it so interesting. And so let's maybe read what it says here. Why does social class matter more than ever in Britain today? How has the meaning of class changed? What does this mean for social mobility and inequality? Mike Savage is Professor of Sociology at the London School of Economics, where he's also co-director of the International Inequalities Institute. He is recognized as a leading international authority on social class, with his recent books including Identities and Social Change in Britain since 1940. He has written this book in collaboration with a team of sociological experts linked to the Great British Class Survey. A bunch of people's names, that's it, okay. So he wrote this. Let's have a look when it was written, or rather when it was published. 2015. Okay, so not too long ago. So yeah, it's more academic, I think, but you know, I definitely have an interest in reading it. I don't think it's going to be most people's company, but if you have any interest in knowing how I found these two new books and any others that I pick up in the coming weeks and months, please let me know. I think if I were to recommend one book, I would recommend The Moth, because it is so good. And generally speaking, I think most people would really, really enjoy this one. That's probably my biggest recommendation. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I realise I've dipped in and out of soft-spoken and whispered, so I hope you enjoy a mix of the two. It wasn't intentional, it just sort of happened that way. And yes, definitely looking for books on feeling calm